Okay, it's Mike Naparello from Peak Performance back to show you 3D dynamic functional stretching for the back corner of the hip or the butt area. It's an area that commonly gets tight. We want to stretch that out, but how do we do it in a more authentic way? We know that as a runner, that leg is going to be up out in front of you while you're standing, not when you're laying down. There's all kinds of poses and positions you can get into to create stretching here, but again, we want to make it as functional as we can and make sure that the muscle's in a position where you ask it to be contracted a bit while you're moving in other planes of motion to optimize the stretch that you get there for carryover as a runner. So one of the places I'll often do this is on the steeple at the track. Now you can also use a park bench, you could use the trunk of a car, you can use the side of a chair. Having a bigger flat surface is a little bit nice, and that's why the width of a steeple works really nicely if you're at a track, but plenty of other surfaces, tabletops, picnic table, could be used. Now this stretch is very unique, like all of them are, in terms of how tight you might be as to where you need to be. Some people are going to need to be on a lower surface, some may need to be on something very high. So for me, that sort of a height works really well, and I don't have enough rotation to want to put my leg in this full figure four position easily, so I'll let my leg drop off to the side. Some people may have so much hip flexion ability, or they may be tall enough that they would benefit from having something like a foam roll placed on the table to optimize and customize their positioning. You can do that as well. So basically what you're going to do is get yourself into this figure four position, and I'm going to make sure that this thigh is squared or perpendicular to my trunk. A lot of people will start that leg, you may need to start that leg way out to the side if you're super tight, but we'd love to see you start it with a little bit more alignment perpendicular to the pelvis. Then what I'm going to do is stick my butt out. Again, nose forward, chest up, shoulders back. I'm staying well postured here as I stick my butt out and I find that first stretch. So I'm going to hold this stretch for about 10 or 15 seconds. Again, this is a sagittal plane dominant stretch, but then what we want to do is add in that frontal and transverse plane. So the frontal plane is going to be pressing my hip to that side, and as I press my hip to that side, I get a little bit more stretch in this corner. I'll do that 3 to 5 times. I can accentuate the sagittal plane by throwing in some little baby squats if I want to. But the other plane we don't want to miss is the transverse plane, and that's where I'm going to turn my pelvis toward the thigh. Now you got to be very careful not to just turn your shoulders, because if your pelvis, or we cue people all the time to think of your pocket looking at your knee. So I'm really going to try and turn my pelvis, my pocket, toward my knee, toward my thigh, to create that motion in the hip. All the while never giving up this sticking the butt out, chest up, shoulders back, nose forward, sort of posturing that gets the stretch to begin with. We don't want to stand up out of that and begin turning. Keep the stretch and superimpose that transverse plane, and you'll get a nice 3D stretch into the back corner of that hip.